Folks, we are live. Welcome to Talking Crit. I am one of your hosts, Erik Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR. With me, as every Wednesday night, is none other than Bad Mike Battolato, my once a week work spouse. Uh, Underneath Mike, Mike, by the way, was the one holding up the show, just so we repeat that every week. We were late, it was Mike.
Mm.
Um, is none other than Jim Kitchen, and our very special guest. And I got corrected by my own social media crowd on an earlier video today when I was like, "Is it Gygax Garland or Garland Gygax?" And everybody was correcting me, but of course, since they corrected me now, I forgot what it was. But in any case, Erik and Heidi Garland Gygax.
Gygax. I'm Heidi Gygax Garland.
Garland. You knew I was going to screw it up. I knew it. And they corrected
It's okay.
You had a 50-50
You can
chance.
just call me Heidi.
You had a
Oh,
50-50 chance.
Hey,
It's been a running joke. It's okay.
It's
Long time no talk,
and it's
Kim.
almost G's. That both names start with G, so it's not like you can even have like a little I'll remember it this way. No. Well, in any case, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, Paul, Kim, Gary. Oh, and Bad Mike, of course. Bad Mike's in
What
the
is
chat.
Gary's doing? Gary should be working right now. What is he doing? With the video.
Keeping you on.
He's got a lot of things to do. He's got a lot of
Get on him after that.
Yeah, I mean, come on. He's got a lot of things to do. So I don't have
TikTok, Gary, 1 week. Let's go.
1 week. But by the
Gary-
way,
Gary, my
I've
partner-
already had Bill Webb remind me that it's like, "Oh, I'm going to see you in a week, right?" I'm like, "Yes, you're going to see me in a week." So, Kurt,
Oh, Kurt's popping in too.
yeah, it's
Full crowd.
it's almost like we actually have like special guests today, not just like
Good gracious. Yeah, I know everybody today. This is good.
Yeah.
Kim, we just saw
Yeah,
Kim.
we just saw Kim a few minutes ago
Oh, damn.
over at the bottle shop. We were playing Dragon Derby with her and Tom Wam and a couple other people.
Bottle shop. Okay, is that like a liquor store? I'm
It's
in New
called the
York.
Bottle Shop. She has wine, beer,
Okay.
various soft drinks as well, but and several game rooms. She has,
Really?
yeah, she has several little rooms. You can either just hang out there or if you want something for a private event. And her name is Beth. She's great. And she also has an outdoor patio, but today it was kind of rainy, so we played inside. But yeah, they even have board games and stuff if you just want to go there and hang out.
I live in the wrong state. Oh my god.
It's really great.
Yeah.
It's she has a little cabaret room set up now for private parties. We're actually
She
looking
does
at
comedy shows there once in
yeah.
a while as well.
we're looking at Stefan is going to do his. We're trying to arrange his Black Sabbath party, so we were setting that space up. Yeah, I know.
We have a lot of requests for Rush as well, so he'll probably need to work in some Rush.
He played Johnny Cash at North Texas one time. Shocked the crap out of me. But my first real Stefan experience was Total Con a number of years ago. He took an Uber from New York City, Brooklyn, up to Massachusetts. And then he's there because all of a sudden there's the boombox and Black Sabbath playing. And I'm like, what the? And of course it was.
I'm gonna tell you a secret, a Stefan Pokorny secret that you may go a long time without ever finding out. But at North Texas, we rented a special area so he could go in there and just play his music as loud as he wanted to. And he had his playlist. And so we're in there, and me and Bill Webb and a few other people, and we're talking to him. And so it goes on for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And it started hitting. So then we heard Billy Joel. We're like, whoa, what's going on here? So we were deep into the playlist. It turns out if you get deep into Stefan's playlist, it just goes all over the place.
That's when I heard Johnny Cash coming from that room. And I was like,
country music. We heard Neil Young. We heard all this stuff. We're like, this is not 70s metal. This anymore. We've entered totally undiscovered territory at this point.
Like
He's
the
like,
Uber
oh,
ride.
yeah. Wait a minute. Oh, I like all music. And,
The
you know,
Uber
so-
ride is on brand for Stefan,
Yes.
but like Crazy Horse does not strike me as being on brand for
It's weird.
Stefan.
Billy Joel. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sitting listening to Glass Houses going, what is this? He's
Frank
like, oh,
Sinatra.
it's just deep in the play. Man, you get deep into Stefan's playlist and it will blow your mind. So just letting you know, just in case. If you hang out more than a couple hours, you get some big surprises there. I don't know if there's any Bangles on there maybe later on, or you know.
Our lips are sealed.
I
Oh, no,
really
that
hope
was
so.
that was not the thing. That was the Go-Go's.
Glass Tiger. If you go deep enough, you'll hit Glass Tiger.
You know,
right?
Scorpions maybe. I mean, I
Well,
don't know.
you got to have scorpions,
Yeah, I like Scorpions.
and the accent would be right for Stefan. Hello, everybody.
Oh, Scorpions!
Klaus Meine.
Well, I look forward to seeing that trader at your convention, EggCon, because he bowed out of North Texas this year, so I'm a little miffed at him. But once I see him, I'll be all happy.
I talked to him. He said, "Oh, I don't know, Gen Con, but it so happens EggCon. He goes to Gen Con. He usually gets there, I think, Tuesday. Arcon, he'll be there through Sunday, and then he'll check out Monday. Then they can go right straight to Indy. So
That's
very
yeah.
convenient.
Yeah, easy drive.
Yeah, he filmed it like he kind of gave me that. Then he's like, we're looking at different cons. I said, it looks to me like you substituted EggCon for my con, and so we got beef now. Now we got beef with EggCon.
Well,
he goes, no, Mike, no, I'm going straight to get to Gen Con after. Like,
Yeah,
all right.
and he wanted to come play with Ernie, but that didn't work out. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, why don't you guys tell us? You guys are on here, and you're running EggCon, and I'm going to try to make it this year. Why don't you give us a pitch, your EggCon pitch, and let us know what's going on in Lake Geneva this summer, and why we should want to go there? Why should we be going there?
Well, besides Lake Geneva, I mean,
It's Lake Geneva. It is the birthplace of role-playing games. Dungeons and Dragons was written here. There's a lot of game history, which a lot of people don't know about it. That even locally, this town is starting to wake up and realize, what happened of importance here. But we're celebrating. We're celebrating my dad's birthday weekend. By doing it's a small con compared to Gary Con. It's very small. We're probably looking at, I don't know, up to maybe 400, but right now we're looking at about 300, so 300, 400 people.
We don't know. I still have 2 months, and we have over 200 attendees. We know.
Our t-shirt
Right,
icon.
my house is full of stuff.
Celebrating Gary Gygax Day and the birthplace of adventure. Now, actually, July 27th has been proclaimed Gary Gygax Day in Lake Geneva. So
nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're doing a 4-day con this year. Last year it was 3 days. So we've got a full 4-day con. A wonderful special guest list, which you've probably seen. It's jam-packed full of a lot of, old. I won't say old people. I don't want to say that. The old guard from TSR, and a lot of people who are very influential. Even today as well. Sonia, you can see at the top there. If you can see that, Sonia Ackright is.
They can't.
They can't see it. Okay.
I put it up there for you.
Oh, okay.
She's the director, curator at the museum, and
our local
Wizard of
museum.
Lake Geneva exhibit,
Yep.
and wrote the sanitariums of Lake Geneva, and it was great help when we were working on one of our games that took place there.
Yep. And we have some great artist guests. We've got Chris Arneson, Chet Minton, Jeff Easley, and Jeff Butler.
Right.
And did I miss any of our artists there?
Nope.
I think we've got them. Some other special guests we have, Jerry Red Shepherd, T.R. Nickel, Heather Ashcraft. We've got Ben Barsh, Bill Barsh, Christopher Clark, Dave Conant, Chuck Cumbo from the Troll Lords, Dale Donovan, already mentioned Jeff, Alan Hammett, Harold Johnson, Ron Meischker.
How do we get Ron Meischker?
Oh, stop.
Yeah. Why did you get Ron Meischker?
Frank Menzer,
God,
Mike Menard, who was around from the early days, back playing, chainmail and at our sand table at our house. I remember.
You'll never sell 1,000 copies. Why did you do that? You'll never sell 1,000.
I've known Mike for a long time because I used to be good friends with his little sister Tina when I was in elementary school. Mike Neistel, Malix Neistel, Victoria Perrin will be there. Of course, Stefan we talked about. Let's see. Oh, Bill Silvey, the Dungeon Delver.
Oh,
Paul Stormberg will have his Legends of Wargaming display and bringing the sand table. Steve Sullivan, who I also knew with, I used to work with back at TSR when I worked there. Jeff Talanian. Mark Taormino, Dark Wizard Games. I don't know if you know, he does a lot of Kickstarters. He's a really nice guy. And first time I'll be meeting him in person. Cosmo Joe, Andy Cosmo Joe Watkins of Phoenix Con. Tom Wam, who another one that I've known for many years, and Penny and Skip, I think I mentioned. Williams. Did I get everybody?
That's everybody.
Okay.
Pretty good.
Pretty big list.
Yeah.
Great list.
We're really lucky.
Yeah.
They were so great last year. It was end of February, I think February of 2024, and it was like the middle of the night, and we were talking about something, and it was like, we should do a con for Dad's birthday. And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds good. And we should do it on his birthday. And so that gives us 4 months to plan it. And we, it was kind of crazy. But what we did when we realized it was actually going to be a thing is we started planning this one. So we started talking to venues, 16 months out. And that was a lot of help.
Yeah.
The space in Lake Geneva in July is hard to find. So we had enough lead time. Parking is hard to find. It's a combat sport here. So we were able to arrange for 2 venues that share parking lots, and so we have plenty of parking. We have a lot of space. We have a lot of private rooms for. I think we have 3 full-size conference rooms that we can use and put big groups in and put special guests in.
Yeah.
And Stefan can set up and leave his little world set up for pretty much the whole con.
And what's the venue, Eric?
The Cove of Lake Geneva and Harbor Shores of Lake Geneva, and they're right next door to each other. Oh, Thor!
Sorry, our big giant dog is cruising around here.
Yeah,
130 pounds of goofy.
Hard to convince. Yes.
So they are adjacent. They are connected by the parking lot. We have parking is very difficult to find in Lake Geneva in town in the summer, but the Cove has event parking. And then Harbor Shores has parking just for people who are staying at Harbor Shores. But so we're covered with the Cove parking, and we have, full all of the convention or, facilities, the conference rooms and areas there. Harbor Shores will be where our bazaar is, the vendor bazaar, and the 24-hour gaming areas. And then the Cove has areas that are open from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. So
24-hour gaming areas. You're expecting much younger people than the crowd.
There is a little bit of demand.
Target audience might be
Yeah.
we won't. I won't be supervising any of that.
Hey, my swag bag came with Doan's pills. This is great.
Yeah.
But it was a request, and we were able to.
Okay.
For example, the Owl's Nest they set up at various cons, and they want it 24-hour area, so gaming area. And actually, last year during EggCon, they had their own area at
Harbor Shores.
At Harbor Shores, the same same place we are, one of the venues we have. So they actually had their whole group there.
Yeah, we had people all over Lake Geneva, and so it's like one of the busiest weekends of the year. So we created a passport, and there were all these locations in the passport. And we went around and we made sure.
It's like a little booklet, a guide booklet of places
it looks like a little passport.
Yeah, I don't have it here anymore.
But and so we provided stamps to a bunch of locations. So because we knew we needed people to go to all these various venues, we made it a game. And so they were running all over Lake Geneva with the passport, getting their stamps. And when they came back, they got entered, for some entered a contest for some special swag. I got some dice, and for this year we're going to do the passport again, but it's also going to be the con book. So, which we have a sponsor, Troller Games. Troller Games is sponsoring the passport for us.
Mm-hmm.
And
and also at the convention, something that is pretty, I think is pretty great that we founded the Erik Heidi Gygax Memorial Scholarship for, a local student. So this was from last EdCon. We had an auction. We had private, people who were attending. They just gave some things for us to auction off. And we had, like Alphinius Goo from Goo Cube. We had a lot of, Steve Sullivan. We had a lot of people, Troll Lords, a lot of different people. Stephen Deinhardt gave us product and that we could auction and give a swag. And we raised and gave out $2,300 in scholarships to Badger High School students, mainly to one, but we gave a couple small scholarships to some, another 3 people who entered in and wrote short stories. And so we had them enter by, enter the, to get the scholarship by writing a short story. And then it was judged by 3 people. And then we decided who, did the best on it. And we presented it. There was, what was it? May 14th we went, and there was a big program, and we gave it to them in front of the school, and it was great. So they should be coming, and we will recognize them again right before we do the next auction on Saturday, July 26th this year. We're going to have a little reception.
With sponsors and with our donations, we should be able to give a bigger scholarship.
Yeah. You should at least be able to, match it. We were planning like a minimum of 1,000, but we did well, and we're just starting up. So, and they were very happy to have it at the local school. So,
yeah. And it was, the stories were good. They were very good. Mm-hmm. It was his first year. There weren't very many people, and it's hard for somebody to write something and put it in front of somebody to read, and mm-hmm. Does it suck? And nobody did. They were all good. Yep. And we were originally just going to give one $2,000 scholarship and hold some funds over for the next year, because we didn't expect to go over $2,000. But we went ahead and gave there were 3 more entries that we gave $100 each, just to encourage them and say thank you for doing it, and
just to recognize them, that they.
Yeah, it was really a fun experience.
And of course, they have badges for EdCon, so hopefully they'll come and play games and stuff too, and be there. So, and then we're doing the Ernie Gygax tournament.
Yes.
Chris Clark is writing a tournament. We're going to do the tournament there. And so on Saturday, right before the auction, we'll, talk about the scholarship awardees, and hopefully they'll be there for that. And we'll give the winner of the tournament and have some cake, and then we'll do a short auction. It's not a big, huge one like some of the other, auctions that we have here, but it's something I thought was pretty neat, because there's no other scholarship that was in my dad's name that I'm aware of. So
I think there's never been one in your dad's name. I think there used to be an RPGA scholarship.
Okay.
But there's never been a Gary Gygax scholarship. So I think he would like it.
Mm-hmm.
In the GaryCon auction, it was a $1,000, $2,000 auction for the first few years. I think you guys are spot on with what you're doing.
Great. That's awesome. Yeah.
It feels good to do it. And and I mean, we have met some of the nicest people from the school, mm-hmm. and the networking is good. And they definitely appreciate it. It was at first, it was $2,000. That's not really much when you think of scholarships. There were so many $500 and $1,000 scholarships, and everybody was still thrilled to get those. So
yeah,
it's books are expensive. And
so I wasn't sure if we'd be like, when we initially proposed it, I said, well, we'll guarantee 1,000, because if we didn't, it was before we raised funds. I said, if we don't raise funds, we'll just cover it ourselves, and we did more, and we're like, we're going to increase it. They're like, yay.
And we didn't have to cover it ourselves yet.
Although we did sell product too.
Do you all take donated items? I mean, how do you all raise the funds?
Donated
donate
items. We have some really cool items that have already showed up that people started gathering and sending to us.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some really neat things.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah, it could be.
If you guys have anything
from somebody's collection, it could be
a
used item. Some companies were donating some new items, so it's just whatever, and people will bid on it. And we had people donate like dice trays and different unusual things.
Oh yeah, different, modules
Grants
and
is
sets
his
of books. There was a
company,
set
yeah.
of Gord the Rogue books, and
Yeah.
there were some nice things.
Our local game company, like Geneva Games, did a cash donation last year, and they're doing it again this year. So
yeah, we're going in. We have $1,200 for the scholarship before the auction
already. Yeah. So
That's great.
I feel like we're going to be. Yeah.
At some point, I'd like to either expand, to a larger area and have more people, but it would make it more complicated to get the word out. But the other thing is, like, it'd be great to do an art scholarship in addition to, the short story contest. I thought it would be neat to have, encourage artists of the genre.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, I will definitely send you some, Eric. I'll get your address after this. I'll send you some goodies.
We'll recognize you. We appreciate it.
We love to support stuff like that. Oh yeah, it's well worth supporting. That sounds like a really
great Wizard Tower Games.
I know those guys.
Yeah, I've heard of them. No,
yeah.
Hey Don.
It's the new Gangbusters. It's Gangbusters.
Yes.
Yep.
Heidi had mentioned the tournament. So the tournament we're doing Friday. We're gonna have 8 teams of 6. They're all gonna be. Chris Clark wrote the adventure. And so we're going to have 8 teams of 6. They're all going to begin the exact same time at different places so they can't hear each other. And then one team will advance to a game on Saturday. But the DMs we got are great. I mean, we just really have a
people
great
don't know which
DMs.
DM they're going to get.
Right, or their teams. It's going to be just scrambled. And we're looking forward to it. Frank Mincer is going to run one of the teams. Chris Clark. I can't think of any other.
I know this is what happens. We've been working on so many things. It's like, who's running it? And we'll get done and we'll be like, but we have some really great DMs. Even Jeremy Wilson from Hawaii is going to do one, I think.
Yes.
Is this going to be one of the things?
Oh, Jeremy's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, he's called North.
So Jason Elliott.
I love Jeremy.
Yeah, this is one of the things we'll be putting up in the auction because we ended up with 2 copies of Top Secret New World Order. And
let's see. This was one of the local.
We will give you the big screen. Hold on a second.
What's in the box? Nice.
Oh yeah, one of our guys, local gamer, really nice guy.
Yeah, he just wanted to help.
Yeah, and so he donated this. So we're already, people are already sending us some things.
Oh, these dice, the dice holders.
Oh,
there's a bunch of these.
Mike Carr. Mike Carr wasn't on the list, but Mike Carr.
Mike Carr's coming. Yeah.
Mike Carr is going to be one of our guests. But yeah, these he gave us these last year, and so these are for the auction.
Lighted dice tower.
Yeah.
They're cool.
Yep.
790.
So
I didn't mean to, Mike. Believe me, you weren't the embiggen I wanted.
I know. I got embiggened against my will.
Oh, they're back. Okay.
Yeah, we're back. We're back to one. By the way,
Is
Kurt,
anybody listening to us? I don't.
Kurt, thank you for
we
joining.
really have to get our downstairs fixed up so we're not in this messy office when we do this.
It's not messy.
You should have seen where I was for a year when my office was getting worked at. I was upstairs in it was dire times. Eric remembers it was a refrigerator behind me and it was pretty bad. It was a mini fridge. It wasn't even a
we
real
just
fridge.
split the basement up and we put 2 new bedrooms for our girls down there with their so now we've got to get the game room organized.
Here, I'll give you a peek behind the screen. That's where I'm at.
Oh dear.
Okay.
And that's why I use the virtual green screen so I can show the game as opposed to showing the living room. So don't feel bad.
That's great.
Just see him when he's in the Poconos. It's a screen door.
Literally.
So.
There's bears and.
Well, thank God I haven't seen a bear up there in a while, but yes, there are bears. More likely to find deer or turkeys in the backyard, thankfully, but that's okay.
Excellent. So why don't you guys talk about your board game? Because you have that project in the works. So
yes, we still have late pledges going for a little bit longer on our Kickstarter, but we funded on Kickstarter. It ran for pretty much the month of April. Dragon Derby, the Sport of Wizards. We don't have enough. Did you want to put anything up or put a link?
I can grab it.
Okay, but it is it's a racing game. It's a family board game for it was 2 to 8 players. We've expanded it. We're doing a lot of expansions. We didn't hit the levels that we wanted to have our stretch goals, but we decided to include all those stretch goals anyway, because if we're going to do it, we're going to just do it big. So everybody who's pledged is going to get the extras. Double-sided game board, which we didn't even advertise when we were running it. So one side is the game board that people have seen where you're racing around the castle track. Well, you're not, the dragons are, and you are a wizard betting on dragons, and you can cheer the dragons on. You can cast wild magic, and you can wager. And the goal is to end with the most money, the most crowns at the end of it. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour to play around of Dragon Derby, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of chaos. The wild magic puts, it's not just moving the board and who's the fastest, and you can bet like, oh, red's in front, so I'm going to bet on red. It changes every time somebody casts wild magic. Now we've added a whole new deck called Dastardly Deeds. So everybody gets a Dastardly Deed card at the beginning that throws a little more chaos into it. You can hold towards the end. There's some things that might make either a dragon or a wizard out of the game. So it's going to be for up to 2 to 10 players. Let's see. What are some of the other things? The two-sided board. The other side, the flip side of the board, is going to be a Lake Geneva based track where you have 330 Center Street, the museum, the Riviera, the library, different places that you can go past, but still same. And then there'll be a few more added cards that are specific, so when you're playing that version, you add those in and, into the deck. So we've added a bunch of cards so that it could be a little bit different. You can play, a dozen times before, at least before there's anything. It'll never be the same game because of the order that things come up and the players. So we had a lot of fun. We had Chris Moreland, who's in town. He's finishing up his 50 Years of Fantasy documentary, and he was with us today and playing, and they were also filming us playing the game. This is the prototype, so the actual looks a little bit different.
Okay.
But this is what we had. We have the pointing to things, but we have the dragon miniatures, and they're stackable. Don't laugh at me.
It was funny.
The side bet cards that we took out because they weren't getting used a lot, and we've play tested it many times. So we found that since it wasn't getting used a lot, we added the Dastardly Deeds deck in there instead. So I think it's going to be really fun. And if people miss out and they don't want to do, a lot of people have gotten like Kickstarters. We don't know if it's going to deliver. This is delivering. We're doing it. And it's going to be delivered to everybody who's backed it. We'll have it by October. If you didn't back and didn't get it then, we'll have it online, and we'll also have it at any of the cons that we're at where we have a booth. So it'll be at the Gaxland booth and on gaxland.com to get it. But yep. So
you guys have, how many cons have you guys hit lately? Because every time I turn around, I see special guests Heidi and Erik. I'm like,
I know we're tired. No,
well, I have to go. I carry all of our stuff.
Yeah.
We're
not doing that many actually. Let's see. Paige. So Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo.
Well, Hades is 13 months old, and I think he's been to 6 or 7 cons.
Yeah. So, but let's see. There's what do we have? Paige, Gary Con, EdCon, Wizard Con,
Dragon Days,
Phoenix Con, and I don't know.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe
not bad.
Maybe some more edited. We'll see.
We don't need. Maybe.
But we have kids in school, and we have, we have a big dog that needs to be boarded, but we'll see. We do a lot of traveling. We try to get a vacation in every so often. But right now we've got so much that we're supposed to be doing other than cons and board games, because we have so many things on the back burner that are, our RPG stuff that are
be more
partially
fun.
Written. Be a lot easier to do.
You come back.
And then we have little ones who want to come say hi.
Yeah.
Well,
He doesn't like to be on camera at all. You want this? Can you have dessert?
Oh, she's got a face for camera. None of these three guys
Right.
over here have a face.
that's why I
None
started
of
a
us have a face for
podcast.
camera.
Yeah, there's ice cream
Yeah.
and there's also rhubarb crisp if you want. Okay.
All right.
I heard ice cream.
Yeah,
I'm
Man.
there's
hungry. I'm
rhubarb
not
crisp and there's ice cream.
Jeez. I gotta call my wife in here.
Yeah, rhubarb pie. I'm like,
Yeah.
You'll poke up a
Yeah.
different part. Yeah.
So, have you guys run into any problems? Are you printing overseas or are you printing domestically? Are you navigating that?
Domestically, except for when we're doing the board game, and there's nobody in the US that can do this. So we were a
Right.
little concerned, when the tariffs were at 145% that, we were going to do that. But we worked it out, even if it comes back to that, we worked it out where we're not dealing with China. But everything else that we've done is domestic.
Right.
And we like that, even though we maybe could go get it a little bit less expensive overseas. We like the short lead times, the control and the customer service that we've had.
Yep.
We found a really good, printer. And so we're really sold on that and sticking with our US supplier for everything that we do.
Good deal.
It's only when you have dice and, board games where you have, miniatures and things like that.
And were your dragons like an off the shelf item, or did you have to have them sculpted?
I sculpted.
He did them at the STL file.
So I get up in the morning and I read and learn how to do something, and then I work on it.
He's a graphics guy.
And Tom Tellis helped me a little bit. I got him, and he was like, "God, those are ugly." And he cleaned them up for me.
Tom.
We were hoping Tom would come to
That's pretty
EdCon too,
cool.
but he's not able to get away right now.
Yeah.
So that's his excuse anyway. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Yeah, Tom's had a tough year. He
Yeah.
hasn't been anywhere. So yeah.
So
But that's
everything
fun.
we do. So this morning was so when you design, when you're doing plastic parts, you have to use Pantone colors. And
Right.
until today, I really wasn't sure what a Pantone color was, but now I know, and I've ordered a very expensive little fan of colors, and so I do everything in Photoshop, and the printer uses everything in CMYK. So I spent a day figuring out how to convert everything over and find the colors. And this morning was Pantone. The board game's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's just
It's very thrilling.
and it's so fun.
It's exciting
it
conversation.
is a really good game, but I'm just saying. It's
CMYK
just-
versus.
and this is
Pantone.
not. It's this. I wish we had a graphic designer, but we don't. We have me.
We do.
And so I read. I read for half an hour and I make it work.
And at some point, you may end up having to get the dingus that you make sure your monitor is in registration for Pantone.
Yes.
You know.
I read about that this morning too.
Yeah.
The workaround for that is
Mm.
just to print something. If you have a printer that is print it and then compare it. But
Right.
Yeah, we're going to be going back to, RPG materials and modules and stuff
black and white. I want to do black and white.
more for a while. We have our first board game concept which we started, we have some art for and we started developing and we put that on the back burner. So this one's actually our second that we went all the way through with. And but I think we'll hold off on the other one for a while because we have so many other really good ideas that we're ready to get out there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Did I tell you we're writing the con module for Phoenix Con?
Oh, okay. So we're writing the con module for Phoenix Con too. Oh, and
Right,
we've
you
got
just drop a bomb. Yeah.
Breaking news, by the way.
Nice.
And we have a module for
Smooth, Eric.
Dragon
Smooth.
Derby because anybody who, it's an add-on, but anybody who backed Dragon Derby in the first 48 hours that it was live on Kickstarter is getting a signed and numbered module that kind of corresponds with it called the Dragon with the Girl Tattoo. And so we have it sort of outlined, but we've got to get
Write
that
that.
written. Mhm.
Yeah.
Get that written and printed up. So.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, by the way.
I know.
Hard just listening to you
Yeah,
guys.
we've
That's,
totally screwed
I'm
up.
supposed to be
retirement.
retired, and now I'm just tired. So-
Retired means
I just put together
He's
a
retired.
module for North Texas, and it took all year to do one module. And you guys are like, we got 18 things here. We're gonna finish up.
No,
6
I wish.
next
It seemed like
week,
we
and,
started
oh.
out really quickly
we
like
did
that, but
6. We did 6 in 2023, and got them all
so
out.
really
They were
Gosh,
Yeah, but
It's
it's
ridiculous.
been slower going.
Right.
We
We
moved.
work on other people's stuff.
Yeah, we worked on some other people's stuff. We moved, got the kids, all these activities going, and I don't know, but we're getting some stuff done.
Well, I tell you what, I'm really impressed by it. So I like the way EggCon has started and grown because it reminds me a lot of North Texas, of course. Just the way that you start out small and you're building up and you have a ton of special guests. That was one of the things that Doug and I looked at. We said, we just get as many special guests we can because we're doing this for us too. And we're just like, kids in a candy store, like, yeah, whoever we can get, get them. And I just love the way you guys are just are kind of slowly adding on, slowly building them because that's how you do a really sustainable good con is you take what you can handle, and when you can handle more you build, and when you handle more you build, and you just keep building from there, and before you know it you're at where you want to be. So I really think
it takes a lot to organize a con and build it. And
do you use, I can't remember, do you use tabletop events? And it's all
so
intuitive, and the flow is so right. So it's right.
But so a funny story, when tabletop first opened, when Doug Ray was still with us, he's one of those guys that just wants things to work the way he wants it to work. And they didn't include all this stuff when they first started tabletop events. And he would email the guy all the time and say, why can't I do this? Why can't I do this? And the guy ended up just hating Doug. He hated him because, and it was really logical stuff. Like at one point, they would allow you to enter games at a convention that you weren't signed up for. And Doug was like, this doesn't make any sense. So I could just go to this convention over here, enter in 300 games, and I could do it. Go, oh yeah, well, nobody would ever do that, so we don't include that in our software. And Doug was like, I think I'm going to do it just to show them that somebody can do it. And so yeah, it's been a long, tough road with tabletop events, and they're much better than they used to be. I will say that. At least they don't. They used to break down when you have a sign-up day.
That.
Because
it's just
I
remember that
overwhelmed us. We can't handle it.
That's the dream problem.
But they're a lot better. They're a lot better. There's some stuff that's actually intuitive now that wasn't intuitive before. So,
wow.
But then Doug, Gary has taken over that aspect. And he does such a great job, and because you kind of have to have somebody. Right. Oh, he does. Oh, God, that's all he talks about.
It's passion. It's really a labor of love.
Yes, but it sucks. No, I guess he said it sucks. Maybe that's not an labor of love. I guess I'm mistaken.
It's a labor of
but yeah, it requires a little bit of somebody looking over it to make sure everything works. And it's not as whose software is a great job. That's Alex Kamer and Game Hole, but he has proprietary software. That's when he created it, and it's the most amazing thing ever. But we can't all do that. We can't all afford that. So we have to use tabletop. So but at least it works. It does work, and it works better than it used to work. So I'm happy with that.
From my understanding, I'm not a con organizer, but tabletop events is kind of like early role playing. You need somebody who knows how to play it and how to use it to teach you how to use it. Because if you're going to try to learn it on your own, there's certain pieces that just don't explain themselves properly because there's an assumption. So like I know when Don was with me at TotalCon, Steve at TotalCon was like, Don, let me sit down with you and show you how tabletop events works. Because just a 30-minute lesson is going to save you hours and hours of pulling your hair out.
Yeah.
And that was like, to me, that was like early D&D because you had to have somebody. Once somebody taught you the whole how it worked, it could take 10 minutes. You went, oh, this makes perfect sense. But if you were just given the books, you were like,
Well, I think it was that reminded me what you're saying, like, early D&D, you had to ask questions. We had to get an unlisted phone number at some point when I was a kid. I remember that because the phone would just be ringing and ringing and calling and asking.
I can believe that.
Questions about rules. So.
Yeah, Tim Kask has some great stories about those days about just, asking Gary so many questions. Finally, Gary just got tired. I can't deal with it. I'm just going to hire you and just have to work for me now because I can't. You ask too many questions.
I'm just trying to imagine somebody looking up Tim Kask's phone number and calling him now, right? Like,
what? What is this?
One and done. No.
That would not go well. Don't do that. Folks at home, don't do that.
No.
Don't call Tim Kask, please. So,
Well, I'll tell you what, anybody that's thinking about going, and I'm sure the people, Kim George will be there. I'm sure, she's a little close to guys, but my wife, so I've been going to GaryCon and GameholeCon for years and years and years, and I always make the drive up there. It's a 2-day drive. It's always in either the spring or the fall. I'd never been there in the summer. So 3 years ago, I told my wife, who'd never been to Wisconsin, we're going to go during the summer. I just want to show you all these places. I want to show you. I've never been to Lake Geneva during, the season when everybody's there. I've never been there. So we came up about 3 years ago and we had a ball because it wasn't 110 degrees like it is in Texas. It was actually extremely nice there. And we drove down to Lake Geneva, got to see that. And Lake Geneva is a totally different city in the summer than it is in the fall or the spring. And so, I mean, it was really it was a very enjoyable trip. But Lake Geneva and the whole state of Wisconsin actually is just great in the summer, especially if you live in the South where it's just miserable hot. We had some wonderful nights up there. And we spent a whole week up there. It was great. So anybody thinking about going up there, if nothing else, just go up there and enjoy the beautiful weather. I mean, I'm sure it gets hot there sometimes, but it's nowhere like
something. There was a Visit Lake Geneva video, and I posted it on EggCon showing, hey, non-gaming things, all the boat cruises and different things that people come up here to do because, a lot of people especially from the Chicago area, you guys come to visit all the time.
Restaurants, so where we have the Cove and Harbor Shores. The Cove has used to be
it's Lake City, it's Lake City Social.
Lake City Social, and then Harbor Shores has
Gino's East
Pizza. Yeah. But touching one of the parking lots all the way around, there's like 5 more restaurants,
including McDonald's on the backside.
Because I mean, some people, but within about 3 blocks, not only can you go to the museum and 330 Center Street, there's 35, 40 more restaurants. And
bars.
You don't even have to move your car. And bars, right?
Oh, so even better for not moving your car.
And we have so we actually have a bar. One of the rooms, one of our game rooms.
We have a bar in there. A bartender that's working there.
It's a long walk from one side of the building.
Yeah, because it's not like at GaryCon where people can get a drink at the restaurant and go to their table with it because it's a separate entity. So if anybody so desires, but people can also bring in their own food and non-alcoholic beverages to the game table as well. We have that agreement with them. The
one downside besides parking is lodging is not
expensive.
It's not inexpensive. It's not crazy. It's not like Hawaii.
It was pricey. Yeah, I thought it was. I made reservation way in advance. I was like, "Whoa, this is more expensive than I want to go to." This is
we looked, when we were looking at venues and pricing for hotels, and they said, can you move it to like November or January? We're like, no, we can't. That's my dad's birthday was, born in July. So
I'm sorry, my dad had the misfortune of being born in July.
Right. And like
how inconsiderate.
I know my brother gets a great deal for March, going there, and he doesn't have the same, we talked to some of the venues around and hotels that have really nice facilities. They won't charge necessarily a lot for using their space, but they have these huge food and beverage minimums, and in the summer they're crazy because they can book weddings every day of the week in each one of these ballrooms. So each ballroom has like a 10,000 F&B each day, and there's no way.
Yeah, it was a different animal in the summer. Like I said, I'd never been in the summer, and of course you guys live there, and but I'd never been there. So I'd only been there spring and fall. And it was just packed. It was really full. There's a lot of people there, and I'm not used to seeing that at Lake Geneva. So it was really interesting. But yes, because of that, it's a little pricey to get a room there.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. The good thing about the location where we are, though, is like once you're there, you can walk to most of the places that you're going to want to go, at least over several days. So you don't have to look for parking as much. I mean, if you don't mind walking, the library is probably 3 blocks away, and most things are closer than that. So it's very, if you don't mind walking in nice weather for, 10 minutes, anywhere from 2 minutes to 10 minutes each way, you can, most of the places that you want to go, you're going to be able to just walk. and it's a beautiful walk by the lake.
Well, it sounds like heaven. It just sounds
Yeah.
like heaven. That's great.
Oh yeah, are you going to show?
Well, I've never used Restream before. So one of our vendors did a Gary Con, an Egg Con exclusive. An Egg Con exclusive dice tower.
Old Owl Gaming.
Old Owl Gaming. But I'm not sure how to share it.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a plus button on the bottom next to the gear.
Oh, yeah.
Click on the plus.
Okay.
And if you got an image or if it's a tab on your browser,
it's an image.
So click image and you should be able to find it in your files.
He said plus button.
That's this guy right there. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I've got presentation, screen share, extra camera, local video.
Try. You can do screen share. Open up the image on your screen or your secondary screen or wherever, and then it'll under the screen share there should be there you go. I heard it. So hold on a second. Let me bring up for you. There we go. Okay. Wow. That's real wood. That's not,
yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's too cute.
Nice.
That's nice.
Yeah, the dragon and the egg is something the artist from Hawaii, John Murakami, did for us last year, and then Old Owl took it and turned it into the dice tower. I think some of them have sold. I don't know how many, but if anybody wants one from the con, they can pre-order it on Tabletop Events.
Yep, on Tabletop
on our page, or you can go to the Old Owl page.
Yep.
And order it either way. But they're very, very pretty. I'm looking forward to seeing one. And one of these and a tray, I think he's gonna put in the auction for the scholarship, which is just very cool of him to do.
Yep. Oh, how did we meet? Somebody's asking. Phantom Jen. We met, I think, 2015, when you came to GaryCon, when it was still at which is now called
the
Geneva National Lodge, but it was
the
Ridge, and met you there, and you were with JV West, I guess, but I don't remember meeting.
JV West is the artist who did our first module, and another guy from Kentucky, Stephen Shelley.
Yeah,
and they were I don't remember what we were even doing, but JV was like, "Oh my gosh, look over there! There's all of Gary's daughters."
Yeah, so
I didn't know who they were. I mean, I knew he said Gary's daughters. I was like, "Oh, that must be."
Yeah, so I think you took a picture with Elisa, Cindy, and I.
I did,
and then I didn't really hang out with Erik much until 2017, maybe. GaryCon, just hanging out and talking, and then we would talk about. You messaged me. We talk about animals and his silly stuff. He would tell me, and then. But I lived in Hawaii and he lived in Kentucky, so we didn't even. I didn't. It was never a
dogs and kids and cars and.
Yeah, we didn't.
Not really much about Dungeons and Dragons. Which was,
no, and then. Yes, you may.
Yes,
have
you can have
ice cream. another child.
It's like they're in there raiding the kitchen right now because we're.
Yeah, so. I don't know, and then it wasn't until after I moved back to Wisconsin, and then we talked more, and he came up one time, and we went out on a date, and I don't know.
We went to lunch. We talked about we were just going to go to lunch, and then we went to lunch, and then we went to another lunch, and then I thought, oh man, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. So I am easily, I'm within arm's reach. It's the best thing that happened. Yeah, at 57, I've adopted a 10-year-old and 11-year-old, and
there you go.
Yeah, it really is great. We have 2 dogs and a cat and
2 kids and craziness.
Yeah, we've really screwed up being retired.
We just finished moving everybody out of that, and all our kids and grandkids are out. So we're like, oh,
that's the way you're supposed to do
get
it.
a little time away.
We have spares if you want one.
No.
we have like 6 grandkids now, so we get enough of
that. 6 hours.
Yeah, maybe.
And now we have Gaxland. That's true. Yeah.
You weren't busy enough. Now you have
Some
Gaxland.
people are Gaxland. Well, it's Gygax Garland. I mean, it's better than like, Gygar or Garax or,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like a medicine for a commercial.
Could have been Herrick. You could have combined the
Eric.
a little awkward, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Perhaps. Oh,
That's excellent.
wow. All right. And you also have a storefront, which I have linked on the bottom down there, too. So, folks, if you've missed it, eggcon.fun is for the convention, gaxland.com is for the store. And of course, I went looking and I found out that you have Christmas ornaments. So, of course, I'm sure I will be shopping because somebody else.
Gary, get on this immediately. Christmas ornaments. Come on. Come on, Gary. Let's do it.
Well,
Yeah,
this
snap.
could be.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
sold out a lot of them. So we have a few styles left.
Yeah. Listen, that North Texas shield would make a great ornament.
Gary,
Just saying. Just saying.
he's gonna kill us. That poor guy is about
Gary, you're leaving money on the table. You can't do
What I'm
that.
hearing is we
I'll
can
let
get a
him
bunch
know.
made up and sell them at cost in year 2 and 3 after getting them.
Oh, wow, there he is.
We don't even have a game. You guys are way ahead of the game. We don't even have a storefront. So, congratulations. That's a smart marketing there.
Yeah.
Done. Okay, maybe you really did it. Wow, I don't know.
Oh,
Okay,
sure.
Gary, if you've done it, then I'm.
All right, good.
impressed.
Some all the bar mitzvah gifts from North Texas. It'll be great.
I'm so impressed. Yes, come on. We need to start just taking ideas from you guys and running with it. Jeez.
Gary, don't make me hold you to it, but I'm just saying this is what you're looking at.
Oh, very cool. All right, this is very cool.
I mean, come on, Gary. That's what, 5 inches? Come on. It can't be a Tom Tullis
Too easy.
3D printed ornament.
Is this a better or worse idea than Speedos? Just throwing that out.
Anything is better than the Speedos. Okay,
all right.
I'm just saying. I mean,
That one looks sort of like our little Eggcon dragon. So
yes,
Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
I again, like I said, I am sure I will be shopping.
Wow,
Not that I will be shopping, but I will be shopping. Because once somebody finds out about this, I will be shopping.
Do we have the bag? So we got our new, so
I'll go get it.
do you
real
mind?
quick.
Yeah, so when we decided we were going to do booths and we decided we were going to do the store, we were looking at buying bags to put stuff in. Some booths do, some booths don't. But so we ordered Gaxland bags and totes, reusable, cloth totes. And so we just ran out of them, which was really cool because we wanted to run out of them like right after we ordered them. We thought there was a better way we could do it. So this year we have these guys because everybody will want one. And so if you come to our booth, if you buy $10 worth of stuff, you get the bag of holding. Or if you order
It's supposed to
online,
be 20, but we've been
is it
doing
20?
It's supposed to be 20, but I've been giving them out with 10.
Right. And so we've had people wanting to just buy the bags, but they came out really, really nice. So that's
Those are too cute.
Yeah.
and more art from John Murakami, which is
Yeah, this is part of the Dragon Derby art. It's really cute.
right. But
But Chris Arneson did our T-shirt in our logo for this year. It'll be on the banner.
we already have Chet Minton did next year's.
Yeah,
That's
so
already
for
in-house.
EdCon 3, it's going to be.
That's something learned early on. I heard a conversation with Luke that he tries to order all of his art at least a year in advance because
Yeah, very smart. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty nice. But we have a whole pile of art that we have that we commissioned for other projects. It's just sitting here.
We'll get to it. Some good Ken and James stuff.
Yes.
That's gonna go. Yeah.
And Jeff Easley.
Oh,
Jeff
Ken,
Easley.
Kenneth, that's great. Oh,
Yeah,
Kenneth's
yeah.
a great dude. Great dude.
Yeah, we're
Be seeing him next week too. He's at North Texas. He's a great guy to consider as a guest too. He's a super nice guy.
Yeah.
And he's starting his own con in Austin this summer. I
I
think.
saw that. Yeah. He's.
Yeah.
Damn.
Have to drive down. I guess it's not that far, so probably have to support him.
Oh, gee, if somebody's really gonna twist your arm, Mike.
You know, I'm not like you guys. If I do 3 cons a year, I'm worn out. There was one year I think the last year Zach and I did a ton of cons. We did like 6, and I was beaten to a pulp that year.
We've got warnings from the school about the kids missing.
Right. You're sending us these letters. We don't even open them anymore because if you don't open them, they don't count.
We also sent them to Hawaii for 2 weeks to stay with grandparents. So
That was great.
yeah, and then we went to Mexico for a week of that.
That was great.
I mean, you know this, having kids. What matters is, and my wife always tells us. I say I got to work. I can't go see the grandkids. It's like what are those grandkids going to remember in 10 years? That you worked today or that you hung out with them and had a good time? I said, you're right. Oh my gosh, you're right. And so your kids will remember that more than they are any schoolwork that they're going to do. That's the kind of bonding moments you have to have.
The teachers said, give them some work to take with them when they go to Hawaii. And they're like, nice, make them do a report. And they didn't. We said, it's totally fine to make them do a report.
Right.
But they were like, yeah, they're both really good students, so they can go. It's just the school had to send us letters because it's their policy if they've missed.
They'll remember that trip far more than they will the dumb letters.
We looked at price of camps, and I think they might be going to Hawaii every year.
About the same price.
They need a chaperone because I would like to go too. So.
Well, we're going, and anyway.
I saw
our next project. Our next project. Well, apparently,
we're doing something for Appleton for Phoenix.
Well, our next thing that we have to do is the dragon with the girl tattoo.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be written, and then we're going to write something for Phoenix Con.
Right.
And
but
then
those are small.
Those are quick ones. But the next one that we want to put out is
the
Hamlet of Omelet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a huge amount of work done on it. And it's
cool.
really
And that's
cool.
The
it
art,
just gets bigger and
Ken
bigger.
and James art. And
right. And we've got a couple pieces from Jeff Easley. And we have a couple of dungeons, one really expansive dungeon and above ground area and city and gazetteer, and it's really been a lot of fun, and I want to work on it again. But we've been working on the board game. So
when are you going to start writing, Zoe?
Probably.
You going to write some game materials for us?
Yeah.
Well, she and I we've been working on the story. Was the Witch of Walken Road.
Yeah.
So she has ideas, and so
Foogly says make them write a module, call it a report.
That's right.
Yes. It's like, why do all these characters in your book report have stat blocks?
That's how I define it.
Yeah, make them write a module and call it a report. There you go.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That is.
Coordinating art takes more time than the actual art takes. So because we were so new at this when we were on our first module, because our first module was never going to be a module, we were just going to run something together at GaryCon. And then we'd worked on it, and we came up with this little adventure. And then I was bored in a meeting because that's the kind of job I used to have. And I was playing with Facebook emojis, and I did this little mock-up cover and posted it as a joke. And anyway, we ended up doing 80 copies just to give to wedding guests and to people at our reception. But we had invested so much in it, we went in and kickstarted it and
updated it and added stuff and printed
added
a bunch.
4 more pages and put a barcode on it, and it was so successful. We had said we would write a second book as a stretch goal, and we would include it, as a PDF in the package. But we had so much fun doing it, we went ahead and laid it out. So everybody, when they got their Kickstarter fulfillments, they had 2 books. So we printed the second book and found a printer to work with us that'll do detached covers, which apparently is like really not the easiest thing to find.
They do it in 2 print jobs.
Don't tell anybody. But they're willing to work with us on it because everybody else was like, yes, we're going to send it to you with a detached cover. It's just going to be all stapled together. It's like, no, that's not what we want. But they work with us. And it was not. But during that project, that I sort of lost track of what I was talking about. One of the artists, we needed this pool of water. We needed something in this pool of water. And he drew it. But in the background of the art, he drew a set of stairs. And there was no set of stairs in the map. So I had to pull the map apart, and I talked to Steve Sullivan, who did the map for us, and we pulled the map apart and we added in a set of stairs and we rewrote part of the dungeon, because I figured if we're brand new doing this, I can't have so much pride that I'm going to make the artist redraw something. And the truth is it really added to the dungeon. So we took the art and it influenced what we were writing and it made it better.
Cool.
So coordinating the art, taking more time than the actual art takes. We thought the artist had a great idea and we just went with it, and it added something to the adventure. So
Dog has to go out, right?
oh yeah,
Hold on.
they
Take these outside, please.
the microphone's really good. We heard all of
I'm
that.
sorry.
Mm.
Important things here.
Hades had to go out.
So Old Owl Gaming pointed out, yes, they're donated a portion of the, all the EggCon dice towers towards the scholarship as well. So part of the proceeds for the dice tower sales will be going to the Erik Gygax Memorial Scholarship.
And he posted, I'm terrible at remembering these things. Yes, we'll be putting the artist concept tower, a matching cherry dice tray. What are cherry dice? And 2 sets of custom-made, handmade resin dice into the auction. Which,
Nice. Wow.
yeah, we've been really lucky. We have other things that have been donated, things that are sitting, our sponsors, the Trolls, Chaosium, Wonderfilled.
What Peter Francis's company?
Peter Francis. I can look at it long.
Okay.
I know the answer to that question.
We've had a long day.
Yeah, they're all long.
Couple cats, a dog, couple
Yeah.
kids.
Games.
Yeah.
Dark Nebula Games. There we go. Yep.
Right.
A little juggling. Come on. So, all right. Now, I guess we're in the second half of the show. Is this where we start talking like gaming events and current events in
Yeah.
gaming? Like,
We're old, so we can go. If you want to.
It's bedtime already.
Well, no,
No.
but the girls and some things like that.
Yeah, we have to
At
coordinate.
some point, one of us needs to go look and see what they've done to the kitchen. Because
Oh, yeah, that's
oh,
oh, true.
They're busy. Ice cream.
memories. I'm glad mine are just memories at this point. Yes.
I just put a stack of freezer pizzas in the freezer, and I just watched them they just disappear
Oh,
while he's
yep.
home. It's like, okay, I'm down to 3. I need to go buy 10 more.
Can I nuke them?
Yeah.
Mm.
So that's crazy. Oh,
Well, it's great to have you guys on to see you there. We definitely need to talk a little bit offline about maybe having you up for or having you down for North Texas next year, and I will try. I'll do my best to make it to EggCon this year. I have my reservations. Just cross my fingers to make sure everything works out. We have a busy summer. Such a busy summer.
and the
Make
important
it.
thing to say though is that tickets are still available for EggCon,
Yes.
and rooms are still available for EggCon.
Yes.
So please, for gosh sakes, if you're in the vicinity of Lake Geneva, make sure you start moving on that sooner than later.
Yes,
Or I just got a message from Kim George. You can stay in her backyard. She says, "Okay, yeah,
She's selling tent space. That's
tent space with that's awesome."
You got a porta potty? That's
but no indoor toilet privileges.
No.
No.
yeah. Asking for a friend. Is there a porta can?
A room block, I think, is held until about, was it June 22nd at Harbor Shores? I got to check, but at a certain point, they take the rooms back because they'll sell them.
right.
They'll
Right.
sell them out.
Right.
And we have plenty of badges left. The VIG badges are sold out, just the first, that small amount, but the June 14th is when ticket sales. So there's plenty of time to get it before anybody's signed up, tent space only. Yeah, so there's plenty of time. June 14th is at noon is when we're opening up for all the adventure badge levels, which is the type of badges that we have left, and lots available. That's a 4-day badge.
And we'll have lots. We'll have day badges available.
As
They're
well.
available online, but people can come to the con.
We made a
It's-
student badge available by popular demand. So if somebody between like 13 and 21 and they're either going to college, they have their ID for high school or college, and $25 for the 4 days. So it's a discount. It's a good deal. So
We have a lot of games. We have about 200 events, and a bunch of them are celebrity events. Game celebrities.
Sure. Well, that's awesome. That's just
They're real celebrities. They're just gamers. Most of
Yeah.
them. I don't know.
well. Thanks for coming on and talking about
Yeah,
everything.
it's great to
For
have you
gosh
guys.
sakes.
Thank you
Okay.
for having
Yeah.
us. But before I go,
Yes.
behind you, Mike, over your right shoulder, I think that's a Tales of Suspense. Which one is it? Up on the wall.
That is
Other shoulder, other right, other side.
Your other right.
Your
Oh,
other,
this
your
one-
other
this one might be
tale
good
of
too.
suspense.
Oh, my other Tales of Suspense. Okay.
Yeah, but I want to see that one too because you did
So,
it.
honestly, they aren't the best condition, but they're two of my favorite covers of the Suspense. This is the first Iron Man fighting Captain America, which is cool.
Yeah, that's.
And then I think these are Don Heck covers. No, they're Kirby. These are Kirby covers. And this is when they split the mag, where it was Iron Man and Captain. Tales of Suspense started out. It was a horror comic. Then it became a
Right.
Iron Man comic from 39 on. Then it split time with Captain America. So that's the first double. Well, as you can see, the condition, it's a 5.5. This is
You're
7,
such a nerd.
I like.
He loves
I
comic book
honestly
stuff.
collect stuff that I just like. I don't care about the condition as much as I just think it looks cool and the memories that and it incites in my brain when I see them up there. So I have a lot of first appearance stuff.
I know that first Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep,
You're really a
Guardians,
nerd.
First Black Panther, first Deadpool. So I just collect things I like. I've got a Dragon one up there slab too. I slabbed that so I wouldn't get people's dirty fingers on it when they come in and look at my stuff. So it's the top stuff. I have a nice unplayed Awful Green things. I need to get Tom Wom to sign that someday.
Yes.
I can.
Well, if you're at EdCon, he'll be running his
Yeah.
Womathon, the whole con. So
I'll throw it in the back of the car if I go up there. Definitely,
Yep.
that could be something nice for him to sign. So, but yes, I'm so glad my wife built that. I really that's one of the things I wanted when I first moved in 20 years ago, and she finally acquiesced to my desires. And it's just so cool to look at that every day and put more and more stuff on there. It actually has a lot of stuff there now. Ooh, there's more and more stuff added every day. So we'll see how much weight the shelves can hold. But
It makes you look good.
thank you, sir. Well, from one nerd to another, I appreciate the
really nice.
compliment there. So
okay. Well,
Thank
thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank all of you.
All right. Aloha.
All righty.
Dork.
thanks to them. That was great. That was fun. All right, I'll put these back here. Back. Tales of Suspense. Back. I've got
Well, one of these
another
things
loader.
is not like the other. One of these things is going to get his hair cut at North Texas, so we're looking.
Yeah,
forward
I mean,
to
I
that.
got my hair cut. And Jim, you look like you're doing okay. There's one person here that looks like they might.
All right. Hold on a second. Just so people can fully see this.
Oh God, he's going to do the hair flip.
I think Grizzly Adams called. He wants his.
More like a racer head.
Jeez, you know.
It's amazing if I do get my hair cut, I won't look as gray. But
You won't look as great or as gray.
gray.
Okay, yes.
I need that Grecian Formula 44.
I think, I think it's time to. 1 year is probably time to start thinking about it.
It is a year, man. I did it for North. I got it cut right before last year's North Texas. It'd be embarrassing to go back to the same barber because he'll probably go, "What the?"
What have you been doing? Oh my God, what happened? You're like, just kind of let it slide a little bit.
Yeah, it's getting warm. I probably should. I wanted it long for the winter time. Kept me warm.
We won't stage the intervention until you go full Steven Seagal ponytail. That's when we'll intervene, right?
It's not getting there, man. It just doesn't want to do that. Rach did say, she goes, "Listen, if you go full Frank Metzner with the beard," she goes, "I'm leaving you." I was like, "I'm not."
I don't want to see Amish Eric. I just don't. Right? That's
when you get to Texas, you're going to want to have it. It's hot, and you're not going to want to be all sweaty and bedraggled. You're going to want this smooth stuff here. It feels much, much better. Let me tell you, it's going to feel better.
Yeah. Glenn, the Mohawk. I'm too old for a Mohawk. I think that age has passed me by. I could probably do that Marine look, but the Mohawk.
Yeah, Kim or Mohawk.
No.
Let's do the reverse Mohawk next.
That's right.
At 10:00 tonight, Rob Conley's Kickstarter kicks off.
Oh, okay. that I noticed he was on Joe's show this week, but I did not have a chance to watch it. Tell us what his Kickstarter. We probably need to have Rob on the show next few weeks.
Well, it won't be.
What's he got
It
going?
won't be next week because we're going to be in.
No, we'll be in North Texas doing our famous yet infamous live show where we just grab people off the street and they become the star of the show for 5 minutes till we kick them back off. And so you never know what might happen. One year we had apple flavored tequila, and my God, was that
shenanigans. So many
shenanigans.
One year we had Zeb Cook dancing behind us. You know, the dancing Zeb Cook bear. That was very weird. So you never know what we're gonna have. So yeah, just definitely tune in next Wednesday night. It's gonna be crazy. Everybody's getting there and they all want to hang out. And when there's plenty of people around for us to grab and throw, talk to. So it's always a really good time.
So what do we have gaming news for the week?
Well, that Diamond Distributors bankruptcy is really becoming a daily story. If you look at Bleeding Cool, it's like every day there's an update. The latest update, which I looked at this morning because it popped into my news feed, is that I think if you anything that you may, if you are a publisher and you have any outstanding invoices from prior to May 16th, it's not with the new owners; it's with the bankruptcy court.
Wow, yeah, that's a tough one.
Yep.
But you had to know it was coming, right? I mean, everybody knew this was coming. So
yeah,
I just think there's no alternative for some of these people. But I don't know what else they were supposed to do except stop getting distribution. I mean, I don't,
I mean, it's a little, and they actually say in there, listen, we bought when we acquired the company, we did not acquire the obligations. We only acquired the stock, the facilities, the IP, but we don't have the obligation. So that's a hell of a hand wash. And I was reading some other articles that there are companies, smaller publishers in the comic book industry that are in panic mode because they don't know what their future holds. So I don't know how that applies to gaming just yet. The articles I've been reading have all been comic related.
We talked about this a few weeks ago about how Marvel and DC now have their own distribution networks because they've been wanting to do this for a long time. They want to keep the money. They don't want to parse the money out like that. But yeah, if you have a smaller company, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, it's not, it's really tough to handle your own distribution, if not impossible to handle, to get your books in stores. I mean, that's what Diamond was famous for years. That's what they held over everybody's head, is if you're not in Diamond, you're nothing, man. You cannot get into stores if you're not Diamond. Remember the big, giant, thick Diamond catalogs?
Oh, I remember it. Yes.
Gosh. Yeah. I had some friends that got those during the infamous 90s when you invested in comics. They would get the big, thick Diamond catalog and go through there and check.
Oh, yeah. I need those number ones with the variant cover.
All the Valiant ones.
The metallic bagged. I need it all. The best
neon cover, check. I want 60 copies.
The best thing that happened to me was changing jobs because when I was working retail, my comic book store was on my way home. Once I became a cop, it was no longer anywhere near me, and I was like, "Oh, maybe I won't pick up my bag." And once I stopped cold turkey,
you break the cycle.
You broke the cycle, and it was fine because that's what you needed to do.
Yeah, what do they call those things you stimulate in your mind when you do something you like, and then
the dopamine hit?
Dopamine, yeah, the dopamine hit got less and less. You're like, you didn't need the dopamine hit. It's like you woke up and said, "Oh my God, I don't need 16 variants of Amazing Spider-Man number one. I don't need them all." Wow, that's crazy.
I found my method of dealing with this was much more practical. I simply didn't have the money to spend, and I had to pick and choose what my few dollars for comics, which way it went. it's interesting because right now I can tell you right now what handful of comics I get. I get Thor, because longtime Thor reader, and Thor, for every run like Walter Simonson's run, you have a run that's not, but you never know when it's going to get good, and you never know when it's going to take a left turn to Albuquerque. So I'm just Thor. And then I might have a predilection for Red Sonja that has been discussed on this show previously, and apologies. I don't know. Now, I did pick up something really interesting today. So Marvel is smart enough to reprint all the Uncanny X-Men Claremont, Byrne, Austin run. And so this week, issue 135 got reprinted. And if you don't remember 135 is Bad Day for the Asparagus People, where Phoenix decides she's hungry, and Phoenix becomes Dark Phoenix. She leaves our solar system. She warps to the Dabari homeworld system, where she immediately takes a dive into the sun, causes it to go supernova in the matter of a couple of minutes, and wipes out the entire planet of asparagus people. And the Dabari homeworld is incinerated. And then that sets up where the Shire cruiser on a shakedown cruise detects the supernova, and they go to investigate, and they see Dark Phoenix leaving the system, and they engage. And then the next panel, and this is, really and truly, when Chris Claremont's on Ritalin and is focused, this is where the script really just hammers it out, because Lilandra is asleep, and her major domo wakes her up because they have a live instant transmission from the captain on the ship. And she knows him. She knows he wouldn't screw around unless it was important. And when she walks into the room and looks at the view screen, he is screaming out details to her as Phoenix is coming around for the second pass and incinerates the ship. And it's done. Lights out. And that sets up 136, where the Imperial Guards show up and take all the X-Men into chains and holding. And then that sets up 137, where Charles Xavier has managed to convince Lilandra to have a trial by combat. And as the X-Men are getting mopped up on the surface, the blue area of the moon, Jean Grey pulls Scott Summers aside. They hide briefly behind a wall of dust she creates. She says, "I love you," and then she commits suicide.
Well, remember, before that, though, she turns back into Dark Phoenix.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit. And then the Shi'ar is like, wipe this galaxy, wipe this solar system. We got to get rid of this now.
Burn it to ash.
Yeah, burn the whole solar system. And then she realizes what's going to happen, and she's like, yeah, go ahead. And she
135 is the oh shit issue. That's where you realize how big the problem is, right? And God bless the asparagus people, but the Dabari, they are no more. They're gone. And in fact... Sorry, go ahead.
No, you finish, Jim.
So the one great throwback is that at one point during Byrne's run on the Fantastic Four, there is the trial of Galactus. Byrne's Reed Richards saves Galactus's life, and then is brought before sort of an intergalactic tribunal, mostly helmed by races who have lost their homeworlds to Galactus. And there are Dabari in the comic book, right? You have to know what you're looking for, but you're like, oh, look, the asparagus people. A few of them got away, but not very many.
So one of the interesting stories about that, this is back in my super fanboy comic stage, was that originally, and there was art drawn for this, originally Dark Phoenix is saved, and they cut the parts of her brain out that make her Dark Phoenix, and there's a scene where she's dropped down to Cyclops. He's like, oh my god, I can't communicate with her in her mind anymore. They've taken all her mind powers away, that. And Jim Shooter stepped in and said, nope. She wiped out. There has to be some consequence there. This is before people died right and left all, willy-nilly. Nowadays, writers can't write anymore. They just kill somebody off if they have a bad Wednesday, But this is like, no, this has to be consequences. And I remember Claremont and Byrne fought him on that. And said, oh my gosh, you're gonna get rid of one of the seminal characters and whatever. He said, this has to be done. It has to happen because for this, and look, and I think years later, Byrne said he was right. He goes, Jim was right. because
and
nobody would remember this if she hadn't have been killed. They would have been
and
like,
it was
oh
a
yeah,
great, and it's a shocking death because as you're going through 137, the Imperial Guard are wiping up the X-Men. They've just absolutely pounding through the X-Men. And Scott and Cyclops and Phoenix have tried to get away to regroup, and she pulls them into an alcove and puts up the wall of dust, and you see a couple of the Imperial Guard fly by, and the scene hits you just out of the, you're like, okay, where's this go? And then she's gone. She's absolutely gone. And that whole arc, that whole amazing Claremont Byrne Austin arc, that begins in the Savage Land and then carries them. I lived in Calgary, and I can tell you, right, how many times I have reread the 2 issues where the X-Men are on their way back from Japan.
Alpha Flight. They fight at the Calgary Stampede, don't
and
they?
they get detoured to Calgary,
Yeah.
and they land in Calgary. And what the hell is holding on to the airplane that then tosses it? And that's when Department H unleashes Alpha Flight, and you're just like, oh my God, there's angry Canadians, and they're not playing hockey.
I just read those issues like 2 nights ago, Jim, because I have the Marvel Masterworks, and I was flipping through there, and I'm like, I haven't read this in a while, so I just read those. Yes, it takes place in the Calgary Stampede, and they have a big ass fight there. It's awesome.
And what's amazing is it starts off in Calgary, and then it ends up in the Stampede grounds, right? And I've been all over this. And then they wind up in Edmonton, which is 3.5 hours north. And you're like, what the hell, right? How did you wind up in Edmonton at the West Edmonton Mall?
Yeah, they squish the territory in a little bit.
Yes, the province got much smaller, very smaller. But if you want to give it a read, every comic book shop probably got way too many copies of the reprint of X-Men issue 135. It is a page, and really and truly, the pacing is perfect. It's Claremont at its best. It's Byrne when he's young and hungry. It's Austin inking Byrne. And it's a home run. Because do you guys remember? I don't know if anybody's into soundtracks, but the Aliens soundtrack. There is a piece on that soundtrack, which is the APC chase, which is they've gone to the atmospheric processing plant, and like Gorman tells the smart gunners to take the power packs out of the guns, and they hand them over. And as soon as they're away from him, they immediately plug new power packs in. And as shit goes down in the processing plant, and the survivors pull back to the APC, and the aliens are coming after it, there is a steadily building crescendo of that music. And I am telling you, if you want to read 135 the right way, pull up the Aliens soundtrack, pull up the APC chase music, because about the time that shit's going down in the Dabari homeworld system, the music is just about perfect. I was thinking about that today, and I'm going to give it a shot later after the show and see how it fits. But it's pretty great.
It's bittersweet, because it's great that kids nowadays that aren't as old as we are, that aren't old fossils, can actually experience those old runs, which were amazing. But it's the bitter part of it is most comics nowadays just aren't very good, and they don't have those epic storylines. And so it's really sad that you have to go back, to the 80s, to experience something that amazing. And
but you know what? Like, think about this though, Mike. Think about this. We grew up late 80s, early 90s, looking at all of the things that came from the 60s, right? So let's talk about Fantastic Four with the Inhumans and all these other things that define the Marvel era, and Space Marine, or not Space Marine, but Spider-Man and all the rest of this. It took 25, 30 years for people to really appreciate it. That the sequence of events that prefaces Phoenix are the Hellfire Club issues. And you talk about a character defining moment. All the X-Men are caught up by the Hellfire Club and defeated, except for Wolverine. And he starts off in the sewer and he works his way up. And it's he's going through flimsy guards. And at one point, actually, there were survivors who remember Wolverine. They show up in another book, right? And they're just like, I had my. I'm good. Like, half of me is artificial now. Please don't kill me. And kind of fun.
That was another storyline too, because there was also a big debate about whether Wolverine kills people, because they made it real vague for a while, right? But then we know he kills people. He absolutely kills people. But for a while, it was real
he's
vague.
got his claws sticking through the guy's spine at one point.
Yeah, and so they're like,
oh,
he was just hurt real bad, and they rebuilt him as a cyborg. And I think Byrne was the fellow that finally got tired of that. Said, no, he's chopping heads off in parts of body. You have to have Wolverine has to be what he is, which is a force of nature. He's not. He doesn't play good like the rest of the X-Men, and that's the whole dichotomy. You have Charles here, who's trying to make Wolverine a better person. You have Cyclops, who's the boss, and says you can't be chopping through people. And then you have Wolverine's personality, like, hey, this is just me, man. I don't screw around. If I pop the claws, bad things are going to happen for the bad guys. Yes. So it was great back then. They had some. I remember that was also the era of Miller's Daredevil, which at the time, if you were reading comics at the time, that just blew your freaking mind, because he took a bi-monthly crap-ass comic that nobody read, which is the only reason they let Miller get in touch with it. And he said, I'm going to bring in some ninjas, and Bullseye's going to be a badass. And by the way, Kingpin, I'm stealing him from you, Spider-Man. He's going to be Daredevil's number one. And we were just watching Born Again the other night. We watched an episode, and, every episode needs to begin with thank you, Frank Miller, because really he set the stage for everything that Daredevil's been the last 40 years by that comic. And that was the same time period. And there was just all the stuff was coming out there was just so new and cool, and and just wasn't like anything else before. There you go. Oh, in big in that, Eric. That's awesome.
Okay.
That is the classic introduction of Electric. Yeah.
Right there. It's all changed with that. So this is the artist edition. Here, hide my ugly face.
Damn, that's beautiful.
So this is the artist edition. A few weeks ago, I got an email from IDW. I guess they go on sale, deep sale every once in a while, but it was 50% off. And frankly, how can you not? Like, just how can you not? And I think if you haven't indulged in an artist edition for something you love, you really do need to look at that, because you actually are seeing the art for the 1-to-1 size that it was actually originally drawn.
That's how it was drawn. They shrink it down to put it in a comic book, and it loses so much detail. When you see the original, I was really lucky during the 80s. I did a lot of comic book store signings, and I got to see Byrne a couple of times. I got to see Simonson, Miller. I mean, a lot of these guys, and they would bring their artwork. And this is the part, Jim, that makes me want to cry at night. They would sell it like $100 a page. You know what that shit is worth now? Oh
wow.
X-Men pages from Byrne, Daredevil, Miller pages, Simonson, Thor pages.
Yeah.
And they would just they'd have a pile of them, and you go through them like, wow, there's so much detail here. Yes. And I remember talking to Walt Simonson, and he said people don't understand what a great inker Tony Zuniga,
right?
That who did his art, who did his a lot of his he did his inks when he did his first run on Thor. And you could see it. You're like, wow, yes, I can. He goes, yeah. I mean, look at his stuff. It is amazing. I mean, Tony's he's the best inker out there. And he said, it just sucks you can't see it because the way comics are. And you're right. Those artist editions are amazing because you're seeing the artwork exactly how it was meant to be seen. I read the last few years. I've been really working on my Marvel Masterworks collections because I don't like to go through the comics. I don't like to mess with them, but the color on a lot of those comics gets washed out after 20, 30, 40 years. And the Marvel Masterworks stuff is really bright. You can see the colors too, and you realize how important the coloring is to a lot of these issues.
Oh, and I, that's one of my main criticisms with the Marvel omnibuses is that the coloring can be a little weird. And
I don't like the omnibuses as much as the Masterworks.
But the problem is I'm too late on Masterworks. Like, I remember when they were coming out.
Oh, yeah, I
can't afford those.
They're expensive now too. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and so the omnibuses, I'm sorry, but it hits the sweet spot for me of I want to read the run, but I'm not going to go back and try to collect the issues. I'm not going to. There's a certain amount of lack of fidelity that I'm good with. It's like the Micronauts. I have a full run of Micronauts, but I'm not hauling them out of bags and boards to do a reread. I'll just grab the omnibus and start paging through it. And I remember the difference in colors.
Box
right?
office. So,
but
so
I
box
look at,
office, Jack.
like,
I've actually
I'm
those
sorry.
those are all great titles. Saga, so it's Invincible. But there's one thing in common: they're not DC and Marvel. DC and Marvel are not the innovators they once were.
No,
and,
not at
and
all.
it's very simple. Why? It's because look what Rob Liefeld has been bitching about the last few years. He created Deadpool, and you know what he gets out of that? Bupkis. He gets nothing
right.
out of it. And so these guys, when they have a great idea like Saga or like Invincible, they go off and they go do it independently where they can own the rights to it. And so nobody's creating great stuff for DC and Marvel because why? Why are you going to give DC and Marvel a great character? You don't want to give them a great character.
But this is sort of turning into comic book chat. So let me just talk about a few things that I think are pretty important.
I was fine with comic book chat, but no, I'm serious. No, go ahead.
We haven't had a good comic book chat, but let me talk to a few things, right? So there have always been alternatives to Marvel and DC, and some of them have done well, and some of them have not. Comico and Eclipse. I was an alternative comic book guy, right? Ghost in the Shell. I was deep into Masamune Shirow before anybody else that I knew. I had Appleseed. I had Dominion Tank Police. I had all this weird Japanese stuff that was coming over. Somewhere I have Masamune Shirow's autograph because Eclipse managed to convince him to do signatures for book plates. Mm-hmm. So I have one of those. Dave Stevens, that created The Rocketeer, one of the greatest illustrators of the last 50 years.
Oh my gosh.
He started off at Eclipse and so on and so forth. I like there's a comic book most people haven't heard of that came out of Duluth called Empire Lanes, about a group of adventurers that are stuck and a desperate wizard casts a desperate spell and they wind up in a defunct bowling alley in Chicago. And they land, and the magician that pulled the spell off is trying to recover from that. Their fighter, the spell that saved them, has transformed all of them in some way, shape, or form. It's damaged all of them, and it explores how this sort of rolls out. There's all this great stuff that's out there, but the landmark, the one that I very rarely tell people, if you're interested in comics, if you want to read and see something that, frankly, it pushed the envelope so far. I know a lot of people are like, he's going to say ElfQuest, and I love ElfQuest. I love me some ElfQuest, but that's not what I'm going to say. Cerebus, really and truly, Cerebus. You should get the first trade paperback, and Dave Sim, who has wandered into the realm of weirdness. Dave Sim and Gerard is the guy who helped him out. They created a magnum opus where really and truly you look at it and you're like, they were publishing this in the 80s. They were publishing this, it was
the first. Look, if you feel like you have to get to Cerebus, the first 50 issues are essential. The first 100 are good. Don't go past 100. It gets. Dave decided to start really just going way off the reservation.
I don't disagree, except it's some of the most striking artwork I've ever seen.
Looks incredible. The background stuff that Gerard did was absolutely ridiculous. Yes, ridiculous.
And don't get me wrong, Dave Sim has seemingly turned into the most loathsome human being possible he's gone. Perhaps other people we've talked about or hinted about on this show. But really and truly, you need to see how Cerebus started, and it started as primitive as anything else.
It was a Conan the Barbarian parody that included an Elric parody. It was just all this hilarious stuff. Bran McMuffin instead of Bran McMorn, and it was a parody of Barbarian comics. But he started getting into politics. He just got real subtly I'm going to really tell something.
It got better. It got interesting, and the artwork
was really good.
I would just open an issue, and I was buying Cerebus not because I was deeply involved in the plot and the story and so on. You simply would open up pages, and you would look at the black and white, and you would think to yourself, "My God, how do they do this in such a timely fashion?" And Sim was like, "We're publishing for 30 years, and I quit." And that's what he did. He published for 30 years and he quit. and you're just
300 issues, and he's done. Well, the first issue I ever picked up of Cerebus was
Wow.
Moon Roach, where he did a parody of Moon Knight. And my God, the art was so amazing, and the story was so good. I went out and found every back issue. I mean, within 2 weeks, I had every back issue hitting every. I could never find a Cerebus one, but I found the collections. But I had every back issue except for one within like 2 or 3 weeks, because I was like, this artist is amazing. This is some great stuff. But yeah, Cerebus is thumbs up, because like I said, first 100 issues, after that you can go do something else, go buy something else, but the first 100 issues are just absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
story
and we
art,
should explain that it goes through arcs. It goes through arcs, and it goes through arcs that are visceral and ugly and amazing and spectacular, and you can't. Some of it is gut punch after gut punch. Some of it is just exposition and characters where their dialogue takes up half of a page. I just, as much as Dave Sim turned into the cranky weird old guy that yells at kids on his lawn and is off his rocker, for something that ran from 1977 to 2004, it's pretty spectacular. So.
And then he just said, "Okay, well, I'm done." He doesn't really do anything anymore. Too bad, but it's too bad. The same kind of thing happened kind of with Rocketeer guy. He just kind of did that. And,
so Steve,
but he had
there's a couple of things. So number one, he starts off going to San Diego Comic-Con and doing one-offs. He starts having some commercial success. He actually did some illustrations for the pop art cards, the like 3-dimensional greeting cards that would pop up. He starts doing covers because he's too slow. He's too meticulous, so he's too slow to do interiors, so he does covers.
Right.
He comes up with the Rocketeer, and he creates the Rocketeer as sort of a homage to Pulps and Doc Savage and so on and so forth. And then Disney sues him. I'm sorry, not Disney. Marvel sues him. Marvel sues him because they have a group of characters called the Rocketeers, and they feel
who have nothing to do with,
and they feel that they've got something actionable. So Dave hires an attorney, and literally for the better part of 5 years plus, all the money that Dave was earning from doing artwork and going to conventions and everything was going to paying his attorney for this, trying to hold back the tidal wave of Marvel litigation. And so then somebody proposes it to Disney. And Disney takes a look at it and realizes there's some legal action over the property. And they go to Dave Stevens and they're like, we'd like to license the Rocketeer from you. And he says, I would love that too. But they're like, we want to make a movie. And he says, I'd love that, but I'm tied up with Marvel's lawyers. And they're like, you just need some legal help? And he's like, yeah. And they're like, done. And so there's a great piece, and I can't remember if it was in Comics Journal or whatnot, where Dave Stevens and his attorney, the poor schlep that he's had fighting the battle against the Marvel lawyers, right? They're sitting at the table. The Marvel lawyers, there's 3 of them, are sitting at the table. And Dave's lawyer walks in and says, I'd like to add co-counsel. And the Marvel attorneys are like, huh? And then Disney's attorneys show up.
Ooh.
And Disney's attorney's like, there's like 9 of them. And it's like, he's like, it wasn't the 7 dwarves, it was the 9 sharks. And they've all got like $2,000 suits, and they're predatory. And they take one look at Disney or they take one look at Marvel, and Marvel's like, shit. And that was it. And so that's what paved the way to the movie. But for the better part of like 5 or 6 years, every dollar that he was making was going to fighting the legal battle. And so,
and he had a lot of bad luck too. I just read his Wikipedia page. I didn't realize that he also had the earthquake hit his studio and ruined everything he was working on up to a point. And he just had and then every time he'd get a title, it'd be canceled after 2 issues. I mean, you can buy the complete Rocketeer now that has like everything in one, and that's what I would recommend if you wanted to see Dave Stevens stuff. Just buy Jim's going to show it to us. He's got it. That's the best thing for Dave Stevens. He just has some just amazing. His artwork's just absolutely amazing. And so he's got it. There it is. And so just buy that, but it's really good. It's a shame because he was a guy who just had a lot of bad luck and was never able to do the output you'd want somebody like that to do.
And then he dies of
really
leukemia, and
God, it was
taking
really
off
good.
center square here. So then let's give credit where credit is due. He gets leukemia. And he passes away. And his sister inherits his estate. And his sister has been wonderful about trying to not only get stuff from Dave to collectors and fans, but she's been great about trying to make sure that his legacy just doesn't dwindle away and fade out. And I have the utmost respect. His sister is actually very active on the Rocketeer group on Facebook. She's married, and every time she posts some new stuff up to eBay, she makes sure to tell people. She's going through stuff constantly, but she's really trying to make sure that everybody can get something of Dave's that would like something of Dave's. I actually have. I was a big fan of the Rocketeer from the moment he appeared in the Eclipse previews issue, or Pacific Presents issue.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so it's really, I never got a chance to meet him, and I always wanted to. I had a couple of really big artist idols of mine when I was a kid. One was Sergio Aragonese, and I met Sergio Aragonese at Gen Con, and I got an autograph. Awesome. My grandfather used to buy me all the little Sergio Aragonese collections from Mad, and so I got a Sergio Aragonese autograph for my grandfather, but I didn't think to get one for me. And then, finally, like a year or so ago, I was like, you know what? I need to fix that. So I managed to find an original pencil drawing he did. So I was pretty happy.
Nice. Yeah, I was really lucky in the late 70s, early 80s. I worked at a comic book shop for a long time. We had a lot of, at those times, these guys would come through and they would appear at your store for paid. It's kind of like a game convention now. You pay the guys to come and they would come. And so we had John Byrne, Walt Simonson, Frank Miller, Chris Claremont, Craig Russell, Dave Cockrum. I mean, anybody that was pretty big at that time. And universally, everybody I met I liked except for Chris Claremont.
Oh my God, yes.
But because he was the most famous writer on the planet at the time in the 80s, and he could afford to be a dick because he just, I'm writing the X-Men. What are you going to do? But everybody just, and a lot of those guys I met multiple times. They're just, and they were just the nicest guys. It was really cool just to sit there and talk to them. I do miss that aspect because now, first of all, they didn't charge you for the signatures, which they do now. Obviously, you get charged. You could take pictures. They didn't charge for that. You would just go and hang out. There's John Byrne. You start talking to him. Hey, what do you think about Galactus? Yeah. Oh, boom. He had a whole story. I used to joke. I saw John Byrne so many times that I could finish his stories. He had certain stories he'd always tell. I'm like, this is how the story ends. I know how to, but he would do cons. These guys did cons all the time. No. They didn't charge for their autographs. They didn't charge. They would charge for sketches. You do a sketch. It'd be like $35-$50, and they do a sketch. I've got some gorgeous sketches that are in storage I need to pull out. But it was just a different time. And nowadays I don't get any kind of buzz going to a comic convention. I go there and there's a long line. Everybody's paid $100 to have, a signature, maybe another $50 to get a picture with the guy.
Kurt Gould is obviously another groove for life kind of person like I am. Kurt, I'll give everybody a tip right now. Like whoever your favorite comic book artist, whoever it is, you should take a look at eBay and you should go find something of theirs now. I lost Stephen Fabian a couple of weeks ago. Stephen Fabian was 95 and passed away.
Oh yeah, Fabian.
And I was heartbroken. A bunch of you know, I've mentioned it here before. I have a lot of Stephen Fabian originals. I have several. I have many. I have a bunch. And so I knew he was older. I knew it was coming, but I didn't expect it, and then it happened. Sergio Aragonese is by my guess is actually older than Stephen Fabian, or maybe just a little younger. And Kurt and anybody else, you should get to the eBay and you should buy a Sergio Aragonese sketch now before they're gone. And
can we segue this into games? Because this is something that we talk about a lot, me and Eric and I guess Jim too, is that this is why you go to conventions like North Texas, like EdCon, like GameCon, is when you go there, you need to see these guys say, I appreciate the work you did back in the day. Steve Winters, and I mean Dennis Sestero will be coming to North Texas this year. This may be his last one, guys. He's 85 years old. And he's one of the nicest guys in game. He's created the Druid character, co-created Bunnies and Burrows, did the Sword Bearer game. I mean, his DNA is all over early D&D. He doesn't have a lot of cons left in him, guys. Like I said, this may be the last one he does. He's 85 years old. So a lot of these guys, they're just getting old. They're getting older, and and I will tell you from experience, they don't mind at all when you tell them how cool they are and that you just love to see them and like this. I mean, Ghost Tower is my favorite adventure, Al. I mean, they love that shit. They're not jaded. They're not, these are not Chris Claremonts. They're not making, $500,000 a year doing whatever. They never made that much. And so they're happy just to have people come up and say, you were a big part of my life growing up. And I remember running this module, and I ran this for my brothers and friends. We had a great time. And that's why you go to cons. It really is, because you get to see these guys, and you don't know what you lost till it's gone, man. You really don't. And when it's gone, you can't get it back. And we've lost so many, well, not so many. We've lost several of our special guests the last few years in North Texas, and it sucks. Steve Perrin, Janelle Jaquays. I mean, it's just, some of them have gotten too old to travel, and we don't see them anymore for various reasons. I mean, Jim Ward is another one, used to attend North Texas, and it sucks because then you're just left with telling stories to people. They don't actually get to meet these people. And anyway, Eric and I talk about this a lot, I know, but it's true. When you go to cons, go up to these people. Don't put it aside. Don't say, next con I see, what's his name at, I'll go get something signed, or I'll go talk to him. No. Don't do next con to this con. When you see Mike Carr in the hall, walk up to him, shake his hand, said, I love B1. Search the Know was awesome. Believe me, I did that, and he was very appreciative.
There's Mike Carr. Well, I mean, all of our stories are the same, right? You finally get a chance to meet these people. Some of these people are not quite what you expected.
I'm not saying everybody's a winner. I'm just saying go say hi to them. I'm not saying that you're going to be like, wow, that was the nicest guy I've ever met. It won't always turn out that way, but you'll kick yourself.
For every John Byrne or Terry Austin, or there's a Chris Claremont. Just understand that, right? Just know that that's.
I just think it's funny because every single person we ever had the store, Jim, everyone was nice except for Chris Claremont. Everyone, all those names I just rattled off. Waltz, and I think I've told my Dave Cockrum story before. I'm going to tell it again. He came into the store and he was doing sketches, and I do villains. I had John Byrne do Dr. Doom. I had Frank Miller do Bullseye. I always had to do villains because that was something cool. They're like, oh, cool. Everybody always asked him to do heroes. So I had Dave Cockrum do Magneto, obviously. So he's working on this Magneto thing. He's working, and it's getting to be about closing time. And we're going to have him again so there's a con in the area. He's going to attend the con and come back. And so he goes, Mike, I'm not quite through. Do you mind if I bring this home or bring this back to the hotel? I'll work on it tonight and I'll have it ready for tomorrow. And I'm like, what are you going to say? I'm like, yeah, okay. And I'm just like, whatever, 20 years old. I'm thinking, great. What am I going to do if he just keeps it and doesn't come back, or, does he give it back? I mean, what am I going to do? Say Dave Cockrum stole my, $50 for the sketch. He comes back with this full, like I'm talking like a Bristol board, like this big, this full giant page Magneto that looks like it just jumped off the cover of an X-Men. And I'm just like, wow, above and beyond the Call of Duty. And he goes, yeah, I got a little too much into this because I was watching TV and my wife was talking. So I ended up working on a couple hours, and I'm like, oh my God. Right, but it's great. I need to get it framed. It looks gorgeous. But that's how nice some of these guys were. They're just like, yeah, whatever. It's cool, man. You want us to draw a thing, except Chris Claremont was a dick. But other than that, they were all really nice.
All right, so Mike, I found a Sergio for you because it's already slabbed.
Oh dear.
Okay.
What is God?
What link?
What destroyed the
What is going on with this link? Oh, there we go. Okay.
There's
the link. My gosh, that looks awesome. Look, Kurt only $124. That's that for a 9.4. Grab it. Come on, Kurt. We know you can. We know you can afford it, Kurt. Come on. You've got that WotC buyout money.
No, just
come on.
Non-slab, you can get a signed one for like 17.
I've already sent Kurt both a message, a text message, and I'm about to call him because I found something else for him. So get to it, Kurt. Get busy.
Okay. And you're right, Jim. You're saying because I had a friend. She's a huge star. She loves Starfire, the character Starfire. And I found just going through eBay, a guy had a bunch of Marv Wolfman signed New Teen Titans, and he wanted like $20 a piece for them. And I just said, "What the hell? I'm going to give somebody joy." So I bought $20 for all these early Starfire. I bought them all and sent them to her. She was absolutely overjoyed. And they were cheap. They were just, I was like $20 for a sign, and some were signed by Perez too. Most of them were signed by Marv, but a couple of them were actually signed by George Perez also, which I wish I'd kept those. But no, I just sent them to her. I said, look, I know you're a huge Starfire fan. You're a friend of mine. Here you go. And
I have only heard nothing but amazing stories about George Perez. When he passed away, heartbreaking.
I only met him at a show. We never had him at the store, but he was a super cool guy. He was a very, very nice guy.
So I'm going to segue briefly. So I had a birthday last week, and every year for my birthday, I order morale patches. So if you didn't know, these are the little patches you put on Velcro on like your bag, so you know which one is yours, your backpack, and so on and so forth. Kurt, I sent you one. That's the one you should look at immediately. So don't be dithering, you muppet. So I ordered because North Texas is coming up, and so North Texas sort of kicks off the summer convention scene. And if you know me, I have a backpack and it's got a big spot for Velcro patches, and every year I try to freshen it up. So this year I bought some Scorchers. I got, of course, and if you know me, all of these are sort of applicable.
Oh boy.
Number one, time to do some sketchy shit. Doo-dah. Then, and I think this one speaks mostly to our audience, raised on hose, water, and neglect. Fuck around and find out. Right?
Okay.
Because we're all sick of going to people's homes where the wife has lost her damn mind, and there's all the affirmations on small wooden plaques, like live, laugh, love, and in this house, family, blah blah blah. Yeah, right. Well, sure. Live, laugh, toaster bath, which is sort of speaks to me. And finally, and I should explain that first time in forever, I watched the original Predator a few weeks ago, and I had truly forgotten how Jesse Ventura is not just comic relief, but he has lines that are better than Schwarzenegger's until he is blown apart by the Predator.
Yes.
But of course,
all over.
The one we all know and love, I'm a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus. Which I mean, my Yelp reviews are okay, but they're old and dated, and I'm not, maybe I have T-Rex arms. I don't know. But still, those are going to debut this year at North Texas, and I have some others that I'm not going to share. Oh, hell, screw it. I saw this one, and it just made me laugh because I enjoyed it so much. Dropping bombs and banging moms.
Oh, nice.
God.
Anyway.
Okay, that says North Texas written all over it, right?
Yeah, well, that one. And then I did get the other one, which is sort of a recursive. I ordered. The problem is they're like candy, right? You order one, and then you're like, oh, wait, I want that one. And then I got this one as well. So here we go. Time to do some sketchy shit. Doo-dah. Hope I get away with it. So anyway, there you go. And there's some more. I'll see if they show up in time.
Nice.
Yes. So I'm sure my mother-in-law that sees my Facebook posts is looking at the patch that says, I am a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus. And I'm sure there will be questions tomorrow over the breakfast table.
I think Raggy's running that game at the con, actually. So
is he? That's excellent. I'm sure, right? If there was ever a James Raggy game, it's Dino Swap Party.
There you go. The attack of the Pterosaurus.
Why is the pterodon in the chair? Because there's always somebody in the chair watching. Sorry.
Don't give James any ideas. He doesn't.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
He has his own. Don't worry about it.
It's all going to go badly.
Always does.
So let's see. What other is there? There's no WotC news, mercifully.
Thank God.
I'm trying to think.
It's I'll tell you something interesting. I talked to James Raggy the other day. He's hitting the UK Expo before coming to us. He's going to go straight from there to here. Luke's out there too. I saw Luke post today.
Yep.
But remember, do you guys remember when the summer was just Origins and Gen Con? And that was pretty much
Yes.
that was it. You had Origins and then you had Gen Con. Now you've got, my goodness, you have got a full slate of con happiness. I mean, all summer long.
It's a little exhausting, right? I think that it's great, right? Don't get me wrong. I have said before on the show, I think that the future is all these little regional cons because it's great. You're going to pick and choose where you want to go. There's something by proximity. I'm happy to see this ecosystem, and I think the 500, 600 person con, that's an ideal size, right? It's not so big that everybody gets infected, but it's big enough that you're around other people. You can have a dealer hall, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm a big fan of that. But the problem is, holy crap, right? Like, you know, I have people that are asking me about coming to their show to do auctioneering and so on and so forth. And I'm starting to look at my calendar and like there's shows where clearly they don't like me because they don't want me to come and auctioneer, which is fine. I'm not trying to do all of them. But I start to look at my schedule and I'm just like, you know, like it's going to be a thick summer, right? I'm going to be at North Texas and then I'm going to be at Origins. Then I'm going to be at Gen Con and okie doke, right? Like I can get this done, but it's still a lot of work and so on and so forth. But I would say one of the great joys of North Texas and smaller cons is you're around people, you can hang out. It's much more what things were like 40 years ago before shenanigans, before Gen Con became 150,000 people in Indianapolis and so on and so forth. And there's something to really be said for the vibe. And I had this point, I got pulled into a conversation over the weekend by somebody who's trying to figure out how to take care of a Facebook group, because strangely enough, they allowed the Facebook group to turn into Fight Club and they can't understand how to like temper that back. And my point is, when you're at a small convention, it is hard to be the turd in the punch bowl. You have to work at being the turd in the punch bowl, because when it's a small con and people show up and everybody's at a table, for the most part, you check the non-essential stuff at the door and you don't bring your political stuff in and you don't bring your religious stuff in and you don't bring all their other crap in. You just come in, introduce yourself, and play a game and have a good time with people. And frankly, I'm really of the belief that more of that needs to happen than anything else. That we really need to just take the time to remember it's a big hobby. The tables are really big. You have no control over who you're going to sit next to at a con game for the most part. And I kind of like that, right? I've met a lot of great people at small cons. I've met a lot of great people that have made the games I've been in so much better and so much more enjoyable. I've had some dunderheads. I've had some people where I think their parents were brother and sister, but I don't talk about it a lot. And again, my phrase, googly-eyed Muppets. I've played with some googly-eyed Muppets where I just am like, okay, I can't do this again. You know, I've had somebody charge the Frost Giants only to have it turn into a sweatshirt, t-shirt, long sleeve shirt, and other available merchandise from Fugly.com. So I just like small shows, and I like them for all those reasons. And I like them for the fact that it's a congenial, decent side of our hobby versus, hey, we're the next Comic-Con. Aren't we amazing? Look at this brand we've built. Look at this gigantic brand we've built. The brand is so important. Well, actually, no, the community is more important.
Yes.
Don't forget that, right? Don't forget that.
Well, one of the reasons I'm so, I mean, I'm not just blowing smoke, and I say I'm impressed with EggCon because one of the best comments we ever got was Frank Menser came year 2 or 3, and he said, "This reminds me of the Horticultural Hall back in the day. This is how it was.
Yeah.
It was just, you know, whatever, you know, 100 people and just hanging out." And that I like, and EggCon seems to be doing things the right way. They're not growing too fast. the base. I mean, just the whole history helps, obviously, but just the whole, we're in Lake Geneva. And look, I like Gary Con. I love Gary Con, but it's getting a little big, and I like seeing all the people there. It'd be cool just to be able to go see them without the giant crowds you're getting at Gary Con now, which is one of the reasons I'd like to go to EdCon, be able to sit there and actually talk to, Mike Carr for a while, or whoever, and not have to wait in line, because now now they have the autograph lines where you wait in this giant line and you rush through there and you have to put the stuff down, and so. I like the laid back atmosphere, something like that. But there's also there's something to be said for not trying to be what you aren't. Like, look, we just want to get 500, maybe 1,000 people together, play games, hang out with these old school guys, and have a great time. We're not here to make everybody rich or to sell shares of our convention. We don't want to be Dragon Con or Gary Con. We're owned by a corporation. We just want to get there and put on a good gaming experience. And I think that's my sweet spot at this point in my life right now.
I think when you go to a convention that's larger than the number of friends you have on Facebook, you start getting into problems.
That's
right?
probably a pretty good definition. Yeah,
like I got enough bandwidth for the number of people I'm friends with on Facebook and some folks who aren't on Facebook, but for the most part, I don't need 10,000 people. I don't need 1,000 people. I don't need 100,000 people to have a good time at a show. And I would much rather go to something that's, I'll use the phrase, I look forward to the t-shirt. I would rather go to an intimate show than I would a large show. But that's, the nature of the beast.
That's what's great about what's going on now, because all these, these new conventions pop up. And, Eric's been to some. He's got to go to New York New York Game Convention the week after North Texas.
Right.
And that's going to be a nice small convention. He went to Wizard Con already this year, which is a nice little starting out small convention. I mean, Ken and James, I totally forgot about this, but he's got a convention starting in Austin, and they're probably only going to have a couple hundred people. I forgot all about that. I'll try to make that later on this summer. And that's just my sweet spot now, man. I like to go in there and just have a very non-hurried, non-worried, just hang out time. I don't know how I would react to like Gen Con now. If I had if you said, Jim, Mike, I'm paying your way into Gen Con. We're going to fly you there and you get to hang out this. I don't even know if I would do it. I'd be like, a lot of people.
2 years in a row now, I've tried to get into events at Gen Con, and it's taken me, this year was infinitely more complicated than the prior year. I got into most of the events I wanted. I didn't get into all of them, but I got into a few of them, and I'm pretty happy about that. But it's hard to sort of do this because Gen Con is moved away from let's get together and play games. It's let's get together and market our brands and sell you lots of stuff. And by the way,
I call them entertainment cons now.
It's an entertainment con before it's anything else, and that's fine because it's obviously got people knocking down the door to get there.
Yeah.
But if I want to play, I used to say if I wanted to play, I went to Gary Con, but for the most part, playing at Gary Con is not what it was. I go to North Texas to play. I look forward to playing at North Texas. It's one of the few cons that I go to where I'm like, I'm really going to play and I'm going to enjoy myself. And I like that in smaller conventions because you also don't have to shout to be heard over the 50 tables in the room that you're with. That's not appealing to me. It's not, blah, blah. So,
blah, blah, blah.
Anyway.
All right. Well, after this show, go watch Eric doing whatever he's doing on Joe's
I'm going to be hopping onto Joe's live stream because Rob's Kickstarter has gone live.
Good for Rob.
And let's see, Rob is already at 440 in the last 4 minutes, so that's good.
Well, come on. We all want to see Rob's project fun.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. So,
anyway,
all right, so we'll be live next week.
I told him you're going to be there. I got in the chat and said you're on your way. So
there you go.
We're out. We should leave.
We are out
next week. North Texas.
Next week we're going to be in North Texas. The whiskey tasting should be on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Glenn and I on Friday. Probably a game with Rachel and I on Saturday. This week there is no scheduled live stream for Friday. Not saying there won't be. I'm just saying there's nothing scheduled. God only knows. All right, folks. Thank you to Erik and Heidi for joining us earlier. As always, thank you to my great guests and my wonderful regular hosts. And thank you to Kurt for becoming a member. Appreciate
Yes.
the support. And,
You're legit now, man.
Yeah,
Right.
legit. He's got his cred now, man. He's got his cred. All right, folks. God bless. Catch you later.